Welcome to Ask the Accountant, the podcast that is made for you. Weekly podcast live Mondays from 8:30 a.m., released on the podcast service of your choice on Wednesdays. Your main weekly hosts, Aaron, Patrick, and Johann. Got something to ask? Submit your questions below or ask during the show. Podcast loading. We are currently getting everything set up behind the scenes, so sit back, relax, and we will be with you in a few seconds. Enjoy.
Oh, I'm rusty today, aren't I? Good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to Ask the Accountant. This is episode number 38. I'm going to say 38. Let's say 38. And it's the 10th of July, 2023, and we're here for all your listening pleasure. As always, we are accepting some comments coming through as we've already got some early morning risers. Hello, Kirsty. So if you have got any comments, then do please let us know. And what a week it has been, Johann. I mean, I'm kind of dressed for the occasion, and we'll talk about it in a moment. But do you want to let us know what your week was like and anything exciting, any expensive purchases you may have made that you want to share with the group?
Yeah, morning, everyone. I had a busy week. The main part of the week that was busiest was actually whilst you were away, Aaron. Obviously, while away in Norfolk, we did some wheeling and dealing. So we've got quite some exciting news coming up regarding the future and direction of this podcast and everything else we're doing in the next couple of weeks. So keep your ears peeled for that. We're very excited by all of that. But yeah, other than that, it was just a busy week at work. And then I managed to spend some money over the weekend on some AR glasses. So looking forward to them arriving and taking my work into the AR world, which, yeah, I'm looking forward to filing payroll through AR, managing my client engager through AR, and just generally not needing all the screens I've got or adding to the screens that I've got. What would be that? That'd be like 3 AR screens plus all my other monitors. That would be quite a beast of a setup, that will. No, I mean, compared to your week, though, Aaron, and the conclusion to your week, I've had quite a quiet, boring week.
I don't know. I think AR chat. I mean, let's be honest. You could be the first one to file in AR. I mean, I'm just doing VR over here. You know what I mean? I've completely I've left AR to other people. So if you can be the first one to get that return filed in AR, get your RTI filed in AR, I think we could be seeing something quite special. And it'll be interesting to see as well, like how that works. I think ironically, the fact that you're building your new desk at the moment and you're getting it all absolutely specced out, and then you're like, you know what? 3 screens just isn't enough. I need 6.
I have just gone, I've got my Amazon shopping basket, which is filling up, and it's getting quite a large bill at the end. But I have just gone, actually, maybe I don't need that. So I'll save these for later because I need to see what this AR reality is first.
Yep.
I put a post on LinkedIn the other day with my current setup on my desk and all the different keyboards and stuff. I'm now sat there thinking, maybe the next picture won't have any monitors. Maybe it will just be my MacBook and my VR glasses with all my interfaces, which is quite cool. So yeah, I'm excited by it.
I'm excited for you. So I think we spoke about it when Apple had their whole Vision Pro, and we were talking about there. I think AR's not had its way in the limelight as it needs to. I think ultimately that's really going to be the future. And this whole idea that they're just merging the two, and it's like, well, you can have VR and AR in one device, boom, done. I think that's going to be great. Let's just quickly say hello to everybody as they start coming in. Paul says, nice heart. Good morning. Good morning to you too, Paul. LinkedIn user says, good morning. We always like to LinkedIn user coming through. Did you say something about there was a way of making it so people can see who your LinkedIn user is? That just purely Facebook? Is that a thing?
I think users need to give permission to StreamYard, who we use, to share their personal details.
Cool.
AKA name and profile picture.
Yeah, we might start sorting out telling people that. Ashley, hello, Ashley. Hi, gents. Another busy week this week too. Hey, Jan. Yeah, he's had a very busy week. Working away.
Well, I'm on Ashley's podcast on Wednesday, so.
Oh, of course you are. Yeah, this is going to be. Everyone, get your diaries sorted for that one. We're definitely going to be looking interested. That one. That's going to be an awesome one. Wheeling and dealing. Tell us more. He's already done that, but yeah, thank you, Ashley. Matthew, hello, Matthew. Good morning to you both too. AR versus or VR struggle to get clients to read their emails. This is very true, but you'll find some really exciting. That VR video that I've done really did open a lot of kind of doors for new clients, which is good to see. And Chris, hello, Chris. He has 4 screens. I mean, Sage on one, Sage Payroll on the other. We've got enough products to kind of put on one on each, right? So
dedicated screens. I like it.
For each product. Yeah. I mean, if anything, he needs more screens, with our ecosystem. Yeah. Right. Awesome. Okay. So my weekend, all week, should I say?
Tell us about your weekend, Aaron. I'm not jealous and bitter at all.
Hopefully the dress sense kind of gives it away a little bit, but the week itself, I mean, it was exactly. Yeah. The week itself, it was, I was technically away, which was lovely. I mean, I love my clients, but what I basically did was had no client meetings throughout the whole week, which was awesome. Just gave me an opportunity to really look at the practice, and we started doing some big changes, which are good to see that are rolling out. Some big news on that coming soon. As you said, we're doing a bit of wheeling dealing ourselves, and we've kind of started talking through that. So it was great to do, and it's really good progress for the podcast, which we're really excited to share. And then it came to the weekend, and I went to a little place called Silverstone, which you may or may not have heard of. It's a little racetrack in the middle of the UK. No, I went for the Formula One Grand Prix, and I've been an F1 fan for my whole life. It's been one of those things that I've really, it was ever since my granddad kind of sat me in front of the TV on a Sunday, and it was one of those moments where we always shared. And honestly, like, this was one of the best experiences. The first time I went live to a Grand Prix. I've had opportunities before, but the COVID restriction, all that rubbish came in. But I had the opportunity to turn up with a few other people. There was close on 500,000 people turning up to the event itself. And when you think of the infrastructure around there, that's quite a lot of people to get into one little airfield. Basically, is what it was originally for, racetrack. But no, the atmosphere, the whole day, it was just absolutely brilliant. I've seen every type of weather. Thankfully, thanks to Intuit QuickBooks, I had my umbrella and other items with me, keeping me nice and dry. But no, it was such an amazing event. I think for me, I've always been skeptical about being there live, like what you're going to gain from it. You're not going to have the multiple camera angles and all that sort of stuff, but just having that excitement of every time Lando went past or Lewis went past, the whole section was erupting, and they were doing it all the way around the lap. Was just, it was a very, very cool experience. And I think it's opened my eyes a little bit to kind of the benefit of those live interactions and how they kind of, and what's really made them, right? Like, the reason Formula One's so popular is because of these sort of interaction stuff. So yeah, absolutely loved it. Highly recommend it. It isn't cheap, but it is a very, very cool.
It could be cheaper though, couldn't it, Aaron, if you didn't keep going to the McLaren shop?
Well, it wasn't me that went to McLaren shop. Let me put it right out there. It was the better half may have been, very. She kind of got very excited by the whole experience of it all and wanted to join in. So she turned up as just, a Red Hot Chili Peppers shirt on the first day, and the second day she was, head to toe in Lando gear. So yeah, it was it was definitely an experience. But no, highly recommend it. Yeah, I think if we ever, and one of the cool things actually was a lot of the F1 podcasts have, started to get a lot of elevation lately. When you think about it, F1's had a big resurgence because of Netflix and Drive to Survive and everything else. It's had a whole new element to it, and podcasts have made a huge impact to that. And what F1's found and seen and thought was, really useful is they've started to implement the F1 podcast into the show itself. So, example of that is when you're queuing up to go into the queues, and you do a lot of queuing. You can imagine 500,000 people into one area. It's going to be a lot of queuing, right? So as you queue up, you've got Matt and Tommy from the P1 podcast, who used to be WTF podcast. They're the ones who are talking to you over it's all pre-recorded, but talking to you on the tannoid saying, hello, we're Matt and Tommy. You're obviously going to have a queue ahead of you, but don't worry, it's because we're keeping you safe, and here's how to speed it up. And they were including those, voices of F1 to be part of that whole entry. And then when you got in there was various stages throughout all the areas where they were just having live podcasts of the ones I've never heard of, like Fast and the Curious and all these, that, and the others. And they were giving those podcast opportunities the chance to, get a new audience, or the people who love that podcast to go over there and listen to it. And Matt and Tommy, who were one of the biggest podcasts there, they were on the main stage where Black Eyed Peas were playing and all this, that, and the other. And I just felt like it was really good that they were given the opportunity for those podcasts to go out there and be involved and have that. So yeah, maybe that's something that the accounting industry can look at as well. Like, we've started to embrace it, but maybe that's something that could be looking at going forward. So yeah, that was my take on F1. Highly recommend it. Absolute brilliant race. Obviously a fantastic result. Just seeing two Brits on the podium was a chef's kiss. Lando getting the second on the start was a really, really good event. But it's been an interesting week as well, hasn't it? We've had a very I think I've had the perfect time to have some kind of takeaway from actually having some time in my diary. We've had some new bit of social media being launched throughout the week, haven't we?
Have you heard?
Yeah, have you heard? Have you sorted it out? Literally, I think it launched at like UK time was it 5 a.m. in the morning, something like that, or something around those times that it came through. But Instagram or Facebook or Meta, whatever you want to call them, has released their own version of Twitter as a rival, and they've called it Threads. Now, I think whenever a new social media platform gets launched, it's always something to keep an eye on, to have a look at. Clubhouse was what, a year and a bit ago, was it?
No, Clubhouse was 3 years ago. Wasn't Clubhouse around during COVID in 2020?
Was it really? Yeah, you must have been. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So yeah, Clubhouse, probably the most prominent one that was released lately. I can't think of anything in between, but I'm sure we'll.
And who talks about Clubhouse anymore?
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly. But being an early adopter to Clubhouse, there was a lot of benefits from that, right? There was a lot of people who gained a lot from there. There was people who started their podcasts from there. There was people who got a lot of clients from there. There was people who got a lot of networking from there. And it being that early adopter gave them an opportunity to, start themselves and put themselves in front of a new audience. And I know a lot of people got a lot of benefit. And I think the fact Threads launched, it wasn't a shadow launch. I think we were kind of heard about the murmurings of it, but the idea of it, we didn't really know when or how or anything else. But what I did really like was the fact that when it did launch, there was a huge adoption for it. And the biggest adoption out of all of it, wasn't it? I mean, I forget the numbers. Let me try and bring them up. But it was the fastest growing social media network that it basically has been. I'll just look at this one. It took time it took to reach 10 million users. Facebook was 852 days. Twitter was 780 days. Instagram 355. Clubhouse, which we just spoke about, was 347, so almost a year. And then the times just tumbled from there. TikTok was 200 days. ChatGPT was 40 days. Google Plus, if you remember that, was 16. But Threads, to get to 10 million users, was 7 hours. So that kind of shows what the platform kind of created from day one. And you were speaking off air, weren't you, about the fact that, this was a perfect thing. I'll let you explain why, but this was a perfect, mask of why it got so popular. But I think the thing to see and the thing that excited about it was who were the tech companies from our side were adopting as well, and how they were using it and going from there. So before I kind of go into my kind of experience with it and everything else, do you want to kind of give your breakdown it and why you think it got so popular so soon?
I mean, there's a few lessons that small businesses can learn from all of this, whether that's an accounting, bookkeeping firm, or just a small business in any industry. But basically, what we're saying here is, if we get rid of all the brands, is an existing business has launched a new service, new product, new software, whatever you want to call it, at a time when its directest competitor has had nothing but turmoil and bad PR recently, and they've cleaned up. Like nearly 100 million users signed up in the first week. Like, if you're a marketing company and you're looking for an audience and you're looking for the return on investment, and you think, well, I've spent X amount on Twitter. Actually, I might put that money into Threads when they do advertising. Like, those kind of numbers, to go to 10 million in 7 hours, 100 million in 7 days, around about, they can't be ignored. And it's not like they've spent billions on marketing or anything. Like, they just launched it. That the media have done the marketing for them. People have done the marketing for them on their competitors' websites. Like, people are talking about Threads on LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. Like, we've kind of given it to them. So, like, if you can find, if you're opening a business locally and a local competitor's had a real rough time of it through PR or whatever it is through the news, and you can go out there and just go, this is what we stand for, and it's the opposite to this, then, all right, you're not going to get 100 million customers in the first 7 days, possibly. But I think there's some lessons to be learned and to be filtered down to small businesses from what we've just seen in the last week from Meta. Like, you cannot deny, from a business point of view, it's been incredible. And it's free, I mean, I don't know about you, Aaron, but I know I've had to create a couple of new Instagram accounts so I can have those accounts on Threads, because I didn't have Instagram accounts for those types of businesses. So Instagram's got a surge in new users at the same time. And Instagram's where they're making their marketing money at the moment, because that's where people are advertising. Like, we had to create an Instagram account for Ask the Accountant because we didn't have an Instagram account, which means we couldn't have a Threads account. So the ripples are huge. And then you take all of that and Meta's proven a concept, and they've now got, all the marketing companies in the world wanting to advertise on their platform to their 100 million plus users. It's a stroke of genius. And if I was a shareholder in Meta, I'd be very happy with the last week. Put it that way. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of lessons there that small businesses can take away and trickle down, and filter down to suit that and scale down, basically. But yeah, definitely a lot to be learnt there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they've effectively created a Twitter rival within however many 7 hours, wasn't it? Whatever the thing is, or at least equivalent to Twitter. And if Twitter sold for 44 billion, I think it was, then yeah, like you said, the shareholders will be pretty happy with how that's going to go going forward. Not that they're going to sell anytime soon. Before I give my takes,
Twitter's added fuel to the fire. Like, Elon Musk then fanned the fire and the heat that was Threads by threatening to sue him. Like, yeah. So all the media were all over that. And then, so anyone that hadn't heard of Threads then saw that on the media and went, hang on, what's Threads? Like, there's no wonder it's gone that quick. Like, when your direct competitors fanning the fire of marketing and advertising for you for free.
And it's a good thing for kind of developers as well, because we've seen it a lot lately where, there's this whole idea that minimal viable product. And we've kind of been a little bit skeptical of it. And it's always, in our industry, it's a very difficult, isn't it? Because a minimal viable product for us could mean that your client's going to get an incorrect VAT return or incorrect whatever. There's a compliance issue, right? So we've got to be really careful that whatever gets released and whatever we choose to jump on, betas or whatever it's going to be, we've got to take that responsibility as ourselves, right? But this is the perfect proof of where minimal viable product is the right way of doing it. Like, let's not beat around the bush. Threads is broken. Like there is certain things that do not work, and there's certain things that you need to have to make a social, or we were told you need to have for social platform to work.
So many, like, no hashtags. I can't. So I'm operating iOS 17 developer beta, so I can use Threads. The moment if I want to add a photo, I click on my photo thing. It brings up my photo library. Click on the photo, crashes Threads.
Yeah,
like I can't add a photo to a thread.
Exactly. We can't have multiple.
Yeah, I'm still using it. I'm still quite happy.
Yeah, exactly. We can't have multiple access. Like there isn't multiple counts. As you know,
every time we've got to log out to log back into a different account.
Exactly.
GIFs seem to have been a thing with iOS. Like you have to install a GIF keyboard to be able to put GIFs on if you've got an Apple device, whereas Android seems to be fine. It's very odd. Like,
but as a minimal viable product, it's done its job. Like I assume they're going to put some more investment into this. I mean, crystal ball and all that, but you know,
if the concept's proven, I suppose they might. It's just whether they think the figures will prove the concept.
Have they had enough uptake? We'll see. I mean, it's probably going to be based on, you know, how long it's going to be. I mean, let's just quickly go back to the chat just to make sure.
Also, just to clarify, to my knowledge, this hasn't even launched in Europe.
Oh, really? Is it just?
This is just the US and UK, and maybe some other territories. I know they don't. Threads haven't launched in Europe because they don't meet certain European criteria law requirements at the moment.
Okay.
Now, I've not looked into what they are or anything, but I know it stopped them from launching into Europe. So that's 100 million users, and it's not even available in Europe, which is a huge landmass with a huge population.
So basically, we've just given away even more data to Meta, as you can. But we always have to get them.
They already had it.
Just going back to the chat, Clubhouse was during COVID. Nobody talks about Clubhouse now. Yeah, exactly right. Sam, oh, hello, Sam, the new 5 a.m. club member I've heard. Why is Chris Downing showing off about screens? What did I miss? My one giant screen is better than your Ford. Oh, now that is a conversation topic for another day. We should really have a screen, and they're both cool friends as well, so we could have a screen off between the two of them. Clubhouse brought a lot of value, but it was short-lived. To see you on Threads. A new adopter to Threads was not quite as early as some, but she did turn up to the party at some point. So it was great to see her there. Late to the party this morning.
That was one of the fun things, wasn't it, about Threads? Was we were there going, right, who signed up first? Like Free Agent, they were there straight away. I was sat in Cafe Nero going, well, Cafe Nero's not on here. Costa's not on here. Starbucks isn't on here. And then Starbucks appears about an hour and a half later. And then it's like, well, Free Agent are here. QuickBooks aren't here. Xero aren't here. Now QuickBooks is here because they've got that signed off and they're very active on there. But I don't know. I've not checked this morning, but Xero weren't there last time I checked. Sage weren't there when I last checked. Auto Entry are there, though, interestingly.
Chris, sort it out. We even did a little, I don't know if you saw it, but we did a little fun thread of actually handing out awards to who got there first. Carbon, of all people, with the first practice management. So
to be fair, Carbon had an advantage.
They had a time zone benefit.
They had a time zone advantage. So I'm not letting that one slide.
I was going to try and stick you in as maybe like a proposal software in first, but then I saw Practice Ignition, which was the other app that got it
all over it. Time zone advantage.
Yeah, we've still got the payroll up and running though. So, Chris, if you want to get Sage Payroll out there, just give me a nudge, and we'll make sure you get your award as needed. QuickBooks did technically win that award though, so you know, Free Agent was quick, but QuickBooks again, time zone Canada was quicker, so you know, fair enough. But no, we had quite a bit of fun on there with handing out awards for who came first. But it was good to see, right? Like you said, like how active they were, and again, the social media managers, they don't have all the tools they would normally have. Normally, they'll have connections to Later and all those other platforms that help them manage the content and everything else. This was just literally having to install it on a phone and off to the races, right? So it was interesting to see. Ashley said that 7 hours, absolutely incredible. Yep, you're right. Sam confirming that she was stylishly late to the party, but a 5 a.m. Clubhouse was met a need for a connection during the pandemic. Exactly right, Chris. But the thing that really confused me about Clubhouse is why were not the others just building their own back end to it? I know Twitter tried, didn't they, with some sort of fancy solution or anything, but Meta, you'd have thought have all the infrastructure just to have brought out a Clubhouse competitor in no time, right? So it was an interesting landscape. Lucy, good morning, Lucy. Good morning to you. And Sam saying, not sure where Sage are when it comes to Threads. I hope they're arriving soon. Yeah, we kind of need them there, don't we, to keep the banter alive? Because QuickBooks is doing really well on it. We've got to give them credit. Like they've really come to the table, and they were commenting over the weekend for some of the stuff I put up there for with merch and stuff.
It's all right, because Xero's not there either. But, they made half their team redundant, didn't they? So you'd expect them to be 40% later to the party.
Ouch. I thought we agreed not to do that joke anymore.
40% less.
Oh, 40% less. That was it. I remember now. Yeah. I remember the talk. So it's been an interesting space. Bright's not there either. So, Nope. Kind of says it. I mean, maybe they'll start considering it now, but it is a difficult area because it is, you are going back to that old school, right? Like even for us to set up the Ask the Accountant one, that was a palaver, right? That was a X amount of time it took us to get this set up, and then having to make sure that we had authentication and blah 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 blah. It was a whole section for a little podcast like us to get a thread on there. I must admit that I think props to Lizzie, for producer Lizzie, for actually for what she did for it. If you've not seen, please go to the Threads first post, because I think that was chef's kiss for what she brought on that one. Some may disagree, but I quite enjoyed it.
I hadn't seen it. All I saw was the second post. That was you and me having a laugh at the QuickBooks Accounting Council meeting a few months ago. But I didn't understand why it said, oops, wrong photo. So I don't know if she uploaded the wrong photo or whatever. But then I went in, later on I went down. It's like, oh, someone thinks she's funny.
No, highly recommend. Please do have a look at Threads and have a look at the Ask the Accountant first post and second post, because, I think that was a great thing. Yeah. So before we kind of go moving on then to other topics, I think this is a good time, and we mentioned this, don't we,
in the comments that Sage are coming to Threads, but he thinks they're waiting on EU authorization.
Oh, okay, makes sense. And maybe that's where
got to love the controlling factor of these slow organizations. Like QuickBooks was the same. Like the UK QuickBooks account wasn't as quick as they wanted it because they had to get it signed off, and I think that's a lot of that shows sometimes how organizations actually need to modernize a bit. No, I'm not saying Sage needs to modernize and is old school. I think it's just completely like the amount of big companies that won't have reacted to this as quickly as they could have done, even though their marketing team might be ready and all over it, because someone higher up's not signed it off because they've not perhaps seen the importance of it. And in a small business world, in a very fast moving world of technology, you've got to be more dynamic. Like you've got to be there.
You do, but at the same time, you've got to see the risk. Like,
oh yeah, definitely.
For us, it was like, what are we going to, be able to do wrong? Like we were just posting bits on there, right? There's nothing, we couldn't do any damage, or at least we hope we couldn't do any damage.
But for us, it was just another location to cluster bomb our social content to.
I know, as soon as Zapier's got a little connection to it, I may never post there again. It'll just like Twitter is basically for me. But no, that's not true. But it is that thing though, isn't it? It is that whole thing where they have to be careful about what's happening, what's posting there, what can be posted, who's going to have access, all of that sort of stuff.
Target audience, etc.
Yeah, exactly right. And speaking of target audience, I thought this would be a great topic to talk about. What is the state of social media? I mean, I'm glad she's in the post in the chat today. But one of the things we had with our latest We Have Cool Friends chat with Sam was we were talking about how it was so impressive for her that she jumped on the LinkedIn. So did you. when you look at social media and you kind of take a step back and you look at what all of those ones are, because there's a lot there for us to use as accountants, as advising our clients to use, as topics to talk about getting your your personal brand off there. There's so many different versions of social platforms out there. It's really difficult to know which is right. And I'll be completely honest, LinkedIn for me was one of those where I thought, that is not for me, right? There's no way we're going to get any benefit from that. Stay clear of LinkedIn.
You were so wrong.
I was wrong, completely wrong. And I'm happy to admit that.
Too busy on Clubhouse.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Where's that now? Where are you now?
With my 7 followers on there or whatever it was. But it is true, right? Like when you look at your rose tinted glasses, you're just looking at perception and you're just looking at it. We can look at every social media platform that's out there and we can have a view on it. We can have an opinion on it. But that's the problem at the moment, right? There's so much choice. There's so many. Where do you put your eggs into the basket? I mean, I'm still on the impression that anyone who's starting out from scratch now, the best platform for them to be on is what platform they're already using. Like whatever platform they're comfortable with, whatever platform they're consuming their content with, and that's the platform they should be on right now, right? Because they understand it, they figured it out, they know what's working, they know what's not working. Taking that blind risk of going with what platform may be, the most important to you. Like Fred's is, right? Like we don't know what the demographic's going to be. We don't know what, like, if that's a good move or not. If really we're testing the waters, right? We're figuring out if it's right or wrong. But I do feel like at this point in time in the year 2023, it's never been more confusing about which social platform you should be looking at and which one you shouldn't. I mean, me personally, I still class YouTube as a social platform and it's been my most successful to date. But is that really the right place now with TikTok being so prevalent and so important and so, much more of a quicker move and making so much more ground? It's hard to tell. So I think it'd be good to have that chat now. I mean, maybe first start off with what platforms you're currently using, and that might be the best way to start the conversation.
So with which hat is the question, I suppose. So from a personal brand point of view, okay, I use LinkedIn, all over LinkedIn, love LinkedIn. I'm not as consistent as I should be on LinkedIn. Like last week, 1 post a day, fantastic. Other weeks, potentially nothing. I need to sort my consistency out for LinkedIn. But that's because I don't post unless I've actually got something to post about. I'm not one for taking selfies. I'm not one for coming up with complete and utter garbage. Like I've been putting some thought leadership out there for leading, but that's because I'm reading some leadership books again at the moment. So that's what's going on in my life. LinkedIn's my main driver for social media. I have got ideas on AR content and AI content that I am going to be taking to YouTube once we've got my new office/studio set up. So keep an eye out for that. But from a client engager point of view, we absolutely love our community on Facebook. And I don't think anywhere else would have allowed us to build the same kind of group community that we have done on Facebook. So it's really down to what you're trying to achieve. Yes, we've got a LinkedIn page for client engager, but it's very low traffic and it's there and people tag us in it, which is absolutely fantastic. And we love being tagged into people's posts and what they're doing. So for that reason, we need to be there because people want to say, oh, I've been working on my practice management software, client engager, and I've done this and I've done that. So you need that presence. But our core focus really at client engager is the group, the community within the Facebook group we've created. Yes, I've created as a Fred's account and it's there. But again, it's more there so people can tag us into things.
Yeah.
And then people see the profile and see the website. But yeah, they're my main platforms. I've never been a big Instagram person, certainly not a TikTok person. I've never enjoyed Twitter from the point of view of what I love about LinkedIn is it recycles your posts, or in my case, my garbage. So I put a post out there today, right now. I know as people come in over the next few days, that post will be seen by them. And regardless of how long it's been since I put that post out, I still get a couple of views a week on the Chris Downing post of you, me, and Chris stood outside Brewdog. That's had like 30-odd thousand impressions, and that's been nearly a year. You know, that's the benefit of LinkedIn, is it recycles the posts that you thinks your audience are going to be interested in.
Yeah,
whereas with
content,
Twitter, you post, and within seconds, that post is a million miles down the bottom of a huge wall of volume of posts, and that's it. It's gone. It's into the wilderness of Twitter. So yeah, I much rather I feel I get more value from a post on LinkedIn than I would on Twitter, and for that reason, I've not used Twitter. And I'm skeptical about Threads. I'm waiting to see how they handle the posts. At the moment, it feels like it is very much a Twitter theme of you post. If your audience are there when you post, then great, you've got a chance. If they're not, then your chance is gone.
Yeah, and I think that's because it's trying to emulate a news feed, right? And that's what Twitter does well. Like, I'll always remember, for me personally, when I jumped on Twitter, the times I have jumped on Twitter is when something's happened. Like, something's happened in the world, and you're trying to figure out what the thing is. You know, it could be a catastrophic event or whatever it's going to be. But Twitter's the right place to be there, because that's where you're going to get those updates of people. Like, and you know, that's what it's designed to be, is that news feed, right? But curated news feed. And I think that works well. I always remember when I first kind of started to look at social media more seriously for business, because from a personal point of view, I've dabbled in Instagram for a bit. That was fine. I never really enjoyed it. And Facebook was obviously where I started, or MySpace was where I really started back in the day. But Facebook was kind of like the right generation gap for me, and it was like the right place to be. But when it started to do it for business, I'll always remember that the first opportunity I did was that I bought a Hootsuite or a Later or whatever the platform of choice was at the time, paid the subscription, hooked up all my accounts, put them in a little photo, put a little thing, and just went post to all, like cluster bum, like we always say. And I remember sitting back going, oh, this social media stuff's easy, right? Like, this is super easy. But clearly that's wrong. Like, you need to know what each platform is. Like, why would LinkedIn care that you've just posted a picture about you going on you've just got some new dog toy or something, or whatever you're talking about on your social media platform, right? That's where you've got to be really, really careful, and you've got to think about them. And I think it took me a while to kind of see that those ideas of having things like your social media threads and your social media pillars, should I say, and why they're important, and why you then got to get the consistency. And then you got to figure out that each of those different social platforms will reward you for different characteristics and different use cases and different ways you use the algorithm and everything else. And that's, I mean, Sam puts it perfectly here, you know, better being on one social platform well than many not so well, and it's definitely the case, right? Like, if you can understand the do's and don'ts, like you've just said about LinkedIn, the fact it actually encourages evergreen content, it's huge, right? Yep. Same with YouTube, it encourages
the lazy people like me who can't be bothered to have to keep doing it.
Exactly. And it's one of those, right? Like, you've got to kind of play to your strengths. Like, if you're consuming that content and you're consuming it, then you understand what works and doesn't work. Like, that's where it becomes really, really good. Paul says it's been discussing this a lot lately. In my opinion, I think the main reason we avoided a session is because of the social media. Thoughts on that one? What's your thoughts on that one, Johann?
I think social media provided a free advertising platform for small businesses. I do think it is the reason small businesses can thrive in a more national, if not global way than they've ever done before, because of social media. Like, I've got a client who sells stuff online that traditionally would have been sold in your local shop. They'd have had a real tough time trying to get it into any local shops other than their own, and their reach might have been 20 miles. Whereas now they're selling globally because they've got a social media accounts. For all of its downsides and its threats to data privacy and stuff, social media for businesses, small businesses especially, has got a phenomenal amount of impact to deal with, And the amount of people that went into business and did well during COVID because of social media, there is a lot of benefits to it.
Yeah, agreed. And it is, the whole recession and social media and that concept. I think there's bad news on there as well, like fake news and everything else. That doesn't help, and that drives it the wrong way. Like, the fact that we had such a big issue with the latest, or one of the latest budgets was blown out of proportion, mostly because of the social media, right? Like, it can have a negative effect as well. It's going to go both ways, and if anything, it's now controlling a lot of the economy, and that's something we've got to keep in mind. Sam says also go where the target audience is rather than following the crowds. Exactly right. I mean, we have just completely disregarded that by jumping on the Fred bandwagon, but it's only been a week, right? Give us a bit of an opportunity.
The amount of followers I've had on, the amount of followers, I've got 26 on Fred's, but a lot of them are accountants and bookkeepers that I've not come across before.
Yeah.
So I think there is an audience to be had there.
And the dream is that they then follow you over to LinkedIn, right, or whatever platform that you are, most prevalent on. That's what the benefit of this is. Chris says, I believe one can restrict the news feed. Oh yeah, good point. Yeah. And I think that's definitely useful. Lisa says, I'm surprised at how many businesses have no visible social media presence on any platform. And I feel like that's part and parcel of what we've got to start bringing to the table as business advisors, right? Like, I'm having that conversation with my clients all the time. I was having a conversation with someone the other day where she absolutely, again, we were just talking about recession and social media and the benefit of it and COVID. She smashed it during COVID. Like, her sales have never been better. She was targeting, influencers, and they were promoting her stuff for her. She was a luxury brand, and she was absolutely smashing it. And then as soon as COVID restrictions came and she had a bit more cash, she was then going down marketing routes and throwing money at marketing agencies and all this and that, and it was just declining for her and declining for her. And that is our job as the business advisors to be like, look, this is what's happening. Like, I wish you'd spoke to us sooner, because we could see the writing on the wall. This is the sort of thing that we can bring to the table. And what we can tend to do is use our own personal stories, like the fact that we've had to go through this to build our brands for our business, the fact that we've had to jump on these social media, the amount of conversations that I've had with people about Freds already, is what it's all about, right? And I feel like that's where we can help small businesses and see the benefit of it, and help them go through.
The amount of businesses that don't have social media is scary, considering, what are we in now? How long's Facebook been big? 15 years?
Yes.
Like, it's been there for 15 years. But there's also loads and loads of businesses out there that don't have a website. Like, that's still a bit of a thing. Like, I'm not convinced this internet malarkey is going to hang around. It's a bit of a fad. Or the other bit that baffles me is the amount of businesses that don't have their own domain, like bookkeepers and accountants that are using Gmail and Hotmail and Outlook. Yes. It's like, come on, for £5 or £6 a month, it makes you look so much more professional to have a domain. If you've got a domain, you may as well have a website, which you could even build yourself, even if it's just a holding page that has your contact details on and your logo. It's better than having nothing.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what held up our Freds, right? That's what held up our Freds for Ask the Accountant. Was we weren't just going to do a Gmail account. Like, we wanted to make sure we had the right one. And yeah, it took us an extra hour or whatever the time frame was to get us up and running. But it was so much more important to us. Like, if we want to go out there and, push our podcast and maybe get some more opportunities out there, then asktheaccountant@gmail.com doesn't have the right ring to it. But now we've got whatever at asktheaccountant.whatever, then it shows credibility from day one, right? And that's a small podcast, just knowing that for our audience, we know that if we're going to have those conversations and we want to be taken seriously, then we're going to have to put that through. Sam says, Kelly says that kindly gave me some guidance on how to do this, Chris. Oh yeah, from turning the button on, so it definitely can be done. Good to see. Lisa says, and how many don't have website either, as you just brought up? Well done. Yeah. And Paul says, even just giving people advice on reducing energy consumption meant we heard it at the right time to read it when chatting to a friend. That's basically your story, isn't it? You've had that story time and time again about turning off the coffee machines at night and stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, that's one of my exciting parts about my AR glasses coming. So it's going to take a lot less power to power a set of AR glasses than it is 3 different monitors. I'm sat there thinking, how much energy I'm going to save at home. This is incredible.
I can see a Canva chart coming in now when you're posting your videos. This is energy consumption and the cost it would be for a year versus AR glasses.
And at today's energy prices, I mean,
well,
I could save a fortune. I could have paid for my glasses within a year.
Exactly right. Lisa says, just started my Twitter account. Oh yeah, definitely get everyone to follow on there. It's the Liquidator UK, so that'll be definitely one we'll be following. And AJ says, if the platform can just slow down, I think we're plenty good for social media channels now. Yeah, I have to admit, like, one of the constant conversations that were happening on threads was how sorry they felt for social media managers at this point in time. Having to learn it from scratch, literally overnight, and not having the tools to make it easy for them was difficult. So, yeah, I think that's great conversation topics there. So, yeah, remember, if you do have a conversation and you'd like to join in, then just drop in a comment. But I think that's like, we've talked about what we use, but why are we neglecting some of the others? I think that's another conversation topic. Like, I know for myself that clients who absolutely do so well on Instagram, but we both of us can admit that we dabble in it. We're there, we've got a presence, but we don't take it seriously. Let's be honest, right? Yeah. And we've certainly not got growth out of it that we've seen in others. Pinterest has been a very interesting one to me. Like, I didn't even see that as a social media platform, if I'm completely honest. But it is a huge social media platform, and it's very much taken the Instagram approach, and it's kind of built on there. And there's a lot of small businesses doing a lot of good things out of Pinterest, which is interesting to see. And then there's the age-old TikTok debate, because I will always remember Rachel saying to me, and Rachel smashes it on every social media platform. So Rachel has accountant G, and I'll always remember her telling me and says, right, we're not going to do TikTok because it's not our right demographic. And I was like, okay, yeah, noted that down, and I left TikTok alone and never really touched it since. But obviously she's found that niche and she's found that bit. Now, it's difficult, isn't it? Because it's about figuring out what platform is right for what audience. And what she's done really well on the TikTok side of things is, yes, she's getting a good load of clients through there because there's some clients on there that were using TikTok and they've seen it. But what I think she's done more than anything is that's where she's getting a new talent of new employees coming through, because they're using TikTok. So they're seeing this really cool accountant and they're going, I want to work for them. And that's where it's kind of come through. And that's the special sauce, right? It's knowing and understanding, having the time to figure out what platform is right for which one. So what's your current view on the other platforms out there? Is there any that you've got your eye on, or is there anything that you feel like, its time has been and gone?
I don't know that I think any of their times have been and gone. I think they've all got their uses and their place in the world, and it's just finding that right audience and that right consumer. Instagram for me, I'm just not a photogenic person. I have no issue with people taking photos of me, but I'm not a selfie person. And I didn't grow up with a camera in my hand. Like, I got my first camera phone when I was at college. So I'm not used to thinking, oh, I'll take a picture of this. Oh, I'll take a picture of that. 9 out of 10 times, it actually takes some real planning and thought for me to go, must remember to take photos of this. I want to take photos of that. I'm going to take my camera. I'm going to take my phone and take these pictures. Now I need to remember to get my phone out of my pocket. Like, the amount of content I walk away with compared to you and Lizzie, for example, at a conference is night and day. Like, I might have 2 photos. That's it. Whereas you guys have got gigabytes worth of stuff. So Instagram never worked for me from that point of view, because I just don't do photos or remember photos. I have to really make a conscious effort. Whereas for LinkedIn, for me, because it can be so text-based, that works really well. But then I can't get on with Twitter or Threads reduced content characters. So that really annoys me. That I always think I'm quite concise and to the point, but actually I'm not that concise. So yeah, it's as others have said, like Sam has said and stuff. It's finding where your platform is and stuff. Like I've started with LinkedIn, that's going really well. I now plan to create some video content off the back of what we're doing, and that will go onto YouTube, and I'll grow that channel gradually. That will be a hobby of mine, as it were. That's a personal interest, AR and AI, and I'm loving playing with all of that. And I will make some content out of it because I want to share it with other accountants and bookkeepers who I've already started sharing AI content with through other channels. But that will just be a personal enjoyment factor. That'd be a bit of a hobby. So LinkedIn will probably remain my main platform of choice. And it's interesting that, I'm not on LinkedIn to get business out of it for my accounting firm necessarily. I'll get one thing out of it and do very well out of it. So, like if I get an acquisition inquiry out of LinkedIn, then it's worth every single post. If I get a speaking slot out of it because I've been on LinkedIn and created a personal brand, then it's worth it. They're my end goals. It's not picking up new small businesses. Having said that, I still pick up 1 or 2 small businesses a month out the back of it. TikTok has never been an enjoyment factor for me. I mean, the scenario I always go back to with TikTok is if you're new to TikTok, you put in that you're a 35-year-old male, all of a sudden it just populates the channel, your stream with all these 16-year-old girls dancing and stuff. And I'm just sat there going, that I would feel awkward in a public setting if someone looked over my shoulder and saw me watching and streaming, flicking through those things. So I've never really enjoyed video content, not short content. I love YouTube. I love watching videos on YouTube, but I don't watch YouTube shorts. I just don't feel I get value for that 1 minute. Whereas if I watch something for 8 minutes, I get value out of it. But again, it's all personal preferences and like idiosyncrasies and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything out there other than YouTube that I'm overly focused on at the moment.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? Like when you look at what you personally enjoy, that also makes it really difficult to not or create content that's not out your comfort zone or that's out your comfort zone. Just say, like we openly say, you give us long form content, we without blowing our own trumpets, we can do long form content pretty well. That yes, there's lots we've got to learn, and there's bits where we can make it better and cleaner, and we're always going to learn, and we always take that on board, and we'll always take that. But we pretty much nailed the long form content aspect of it, right? And we can do that. You bring us to short form content and we struggle. Like we've got to relearn and figure out exactly how that wheel works again, right? It's a whole different wheel and we've got to figure that out. And I feel like that's where there's so much opportunity there, and that's where it's so exciting really for anyone, any small business, any practice out there, anyone who's looking to build, because if they do just focus on what they're already enjoying and they've consuming, then they can just then go and build content that's very similar, and then people will go, oh, you know what, that's something I like to go with. And it doesn't matter what sort of content they're going to build. If they're building content that they're already consuming anyway, then there'll be other people who want to consume it, and it'll just work on from there. Yeah. And I feel like that's where, for me, I spent a lot of time. I remember this, and I know producer Lizzie will kind of back me up on this. I remember sitting there in marketing meetings going, why are we not doing better on Instagram? What are we doing wrong? Or why are we not doing better on this platform? What are we doing wrong? You know, when realistically, like, that's fine. Like, we don't have to be on every platform. Yes, have a presence, as you've already said, give opportunity for someone to tag you. Wonderful. But do we need to be actively trying to build on every platform? No. Can we afford to build on and put on every platform? Certainly not. There's, time commitments, cost, everything else. Like, it's not feasible unless you have a big team to go out there and do that. Or you're Rachel. She does whatever. We'll put her in her own little bracket, right? But it's really difficult to be able to commit to all those platforms. And you've shown yourself, like, you just focused on LinkedIn, and you got the results out of it, right? And I feel like that's the takeaway. Doesn't matter what platform you want to go for, you just need to commit to it, and the rewards will come for you. We've seen that ourselves. Lisa says she can't get on with Insta. I feel like Insta's a Marmite platform, right? There is a lot of benefits for being on Insta. There's a lot of community in Insta. I think Instagram has that community aspect of it. And I think Threads is only going to add on that. And I think that's something that we just, maybe Threads is our way into Insta, if that makes any sense. And maybe we kind of use that as like a backdoor to it. But I do feel like I was the same. I didn't feel like Instagram was even a business platform. I thought it was just, like you said, for photo. But the amount of work that I've seen come on the back of Insta is really quite scary. And I think people have to kind of see for that of what it is. Do you think the demographic of the different platforms are like the demographics of different newspapers? Very, very interesting point there, Ashley. And I think that's exactly it, isn't it? But the demographics are completely different, right? We have age brackets, we have all sorts of different things to consider. And I feel like,
newspapers was always politics,
exactly.
demographics and stuff. Whereas, the social media is down to, if I want tech news, I don't go anywhere but YouTube, because I know that's where it is.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, it's finding where that news is, or whatever it is content is you're wanting to consume. So yes, generally younger people are on TikTok, aren't they? 20 plus somethings, if they're doing photos all the time, then they're probably on Instagram. I rarely post on Facebook personally anymore, just because I don't feel the need to share my life with the world necessarily. But I know my nan's on there, and that's great for messaging and stuff like that. Not that she posts on there, but I know she uses Facebook Messenger to keep in touch with everyone.
Exactly.
There's definitely different demographics, but I don't think it's political demographics anymore like the newspapers used to be.
Yeah, and the demographics are changing, right? Because that's the difference. Like, these tech companies, they are so clever at they can see the pie, they can see what they're missing out on, and they're so clever at trying to adapt to that. I know that TikTok has started to bring in a much older demographic now, compared to what they launched with, should I say. And that is because they've started to really hone their algorithm to, like you said, like your talk there about what you would be getting out. I bet if you went in and created it now, you'll get a whole different experience, right? Because they've learned, they've figured that out, they've got that feedback, and they've moved from there. Paul says his kids are obsessed with TikTok. Yep, exactly right. AJ says seems people lean towards platforms they enjoy too. Yeah, exactly. You can just tell those using TikTok are fun doing it. And that is the tricky bit for us, right? Like, how do we make our accounting content fun?
Rachel does it, and others do it.
Stuart does it. Yeah.
We are coming up on time, but I think we both wanted to do a bit of a hats off to Heather from Go Proposal, didn't we? Because Heather's announced last week she's leaving Go Proposal. Last week was her last week. But if anyone's done anything for brand awareness and personal brand on TikTok alongside Rachel, it's Heather. Like, Heather's done a smashing job on TikTok and on LinkedIn to build both Go Proposal's brand and develop it further from what had already been done, but also her own personal brand. And I don't know what she's going off to do. I think her post mentioned she was setting up a business or something, which I'm sure she'll smash out the park. But it's people like they're with a personal brand and the energy like her who do so well on TikTok. Like, she has the character and the personality traits required to be on TikTok, like Rachel does, where they just have a great time making that content. And I think, the accounting industry is better for it.
Yeah.
Regardless of what softwares or companies those people, anyone works for, if they're bringing a modern, more vibrant, enjoyable persona into the accounting industry that shows potential people entering the industry what it could be in the future, I think it's a huge tribute to them.
Yeah. And Chris mentioned it, if you remember, on We Have Cool Friends, like, he jumped on the TikTok bandwagon, but he was doing it based on, what he found fun and what he found enjoyable. And and it showed. Like he grew a following out of that, and that's the difference, isn't it? Like sometimes you got to take your business hat off, and you've got to remember that actually certain one of the platform is all about fun, and it's about just enjoying
and
it. So,
it's not a bad thing to have a personality.
no,
Like in the accounting and bookkeeping industry, I think in the past, personality was a bit of something we ignored. Like we put a suit on to help hide our personalities. I think the closest to personality we might have got was a colourful tie or some comical socks. Whereas now it's a lot more about personality and personal brand. And I think that's a really good thing. And I think it's modernized our industry.
yeah, 100%, and hopefully it continues. And final comment is Kirsty saying, currently annoying on Threads to not be able to switch accounts on Android. Have to log out and log back in again. Yeah, we mentioned that anyway. Same with iOS, don't worry.
Devices.
Yeah, it's all devices. And yeah, I'm sure that'll be one of the enhancements coming soon. And that is it. That is time. We did have other topics, but we'll cover them on another podcast. As always, if you've got anything you want to talk to us, or if we've got anything wrong, then please do use the comment section or the link tree to be able to give us an opportunity to give us some feedback. If you are listening to this on our podcast service of choice, then why not come and join us live? Because then you can join in the conversation like we've had today. We've had so many interactions, and we love each and every one of you for coming in and putting that interaction in. That's what this is all about. So, Johann, anything people should be looking forward to and excited about for this week from your end? Any plugs you want to make?
I mean, I'm going to be probably cluster bombing social media with AR content and questions and thoughts soon, but when my glasses get here. But before then, 12:30 on Wednesday on LinkedIn, join myself and the incredible Ashley Leeds. Now, there's a personality. I've never met a man with more enthusiasm and energy than that man. But yeah, I will be spending 15-30 minutes on his LinkedIn live stream, which will then become a podcast afterwards, talking all things accounting world and industry and software and me, apparently. So yeah, no, really, really looking forward to that episode and being a guest on his show.
Amazing. We have another We Have Cool Friends dropping very, very soon, so keep your eyes out on that one. Speaking of cool friends, Ashley is definitely already on our list, but when we do get to talk to him, I need to figure out what's his view on, or when he's jumping on the TikTok bandwagon, because like you said, for a personality type of thing, he has all of the characteristics to make that work. So that has been Ask the Accountant number 38 for the 10th of July 2023. Thanks again for everyone for joining us, and keep an eye on all our social channels, including Threads. Please do go and have a look at that first thread as well of ours, because I think it was a comical genius by producer Lizzie. So thanks everyone, thank you for today's show, and we will see you bright and early 8:30 again next week. Cheers everyone.
See you next week.
Bye.